The following video contains strong language and scenes of an adult nature. Viewer discretion is advised. Hi, welcome, come on in. My name is Aoife and today I'm going to take you through all of the books that helped me fill out all of the prompts for the NSFWathon. So the NSFWathon is something that was run by Paige from Pages with Paige, and it ran for the whole of September. There was also a live show that was on just at this weekend, but actually I wasn't able to go because I had something happen over the weekend that I just wasn't able to fit it in. So I've got all of the prompts right ahead of me. I've got my reading journal ahead of me, and I have written down all of the books that I've read in September, and I have managed to fit them into all of the prompts because, spoiler alert, I did not keep up with the TBR that I put together at the start of the month. So let's see where I ended up. The first prompt is GSpot, where you have to read a book that you think is really going to hit the spot. And this was kind of a mood read for me, and it was The Flip Side by James Bailey. It's something that I haven't read a lot of kind of chick lit that's written from a male perspective, written by a male author. And that is something that I kind of wanted to explore, see what I thought about it, see if it's something that I want to read again in the future. And yeah, I absolutely do. I really, really loved this book. It was so entertaining. It was so engaging. So the story follows Josh, who goes to the London Eye with his girlfriend on New Year's Eve and proposes, and she turns him down. And he finds a coin when he is sitting with his grandfather at like a New Year's Eve party that was supposed to also be an engagement party. And he kind of has the idea that he's going to flip a coin for every single decision that he needs to make in his life. And it kind of brings him around the world because he meets a girl while he's in London while his friend is doing the London Marathon. And he meets a girl while he's there, and he kind of flips the coin to see if he should follow her around, if he should try and find where she is. He has little snippets of information, but he doesn't actually have her name. So he kind of goes through if he should go and seek her out, where she could be, which area of the world he should try first. It was such an entertaining concept. It's something that I have never read before in books. I absolutely loved it. I gave it 4 stars, and it's coming out in November, and I definitely think that it's one that you should pick up when it does come out. The next prompt was Orgasm, where you had to listen to an audiobook. And for this one, I did The Girl Who Came Home by Hazel Gaynor. This was Hazel's debut book. It was published in 2014, and it's all about the Titanic, which is just one of my favorite things to read about, and it's probably one of my favorite things in the whole world. So The Girl Who Came Home follows a woman named Maggie, who is 17 years old in 1912 and goes on the Titanic with, I think, 14 other people from the same area where she grew up. And it follows her journey while she's on the Titanic, how she gets from her little area in County Mayo down to Cork, which is where the Titanic set sail from, what it was like on board the ship, what it was like during the sinking, how she got off the Titanic, what it was like on the Carpathia, which picked up the survivors. I feel like I could continue talking about the Titanic for most of this video, but then I just wouldn't talk about any of the books. So basically this book is all about the Titanic and Maggie's life on the Titanic. And then there is also a part set in 1982. And this follows Maggie's great-granddaughter, Grace, who is a journalism student, and she's trying to kind of put together and pitch a piece to a national newspaper to kind of bring her focus back to what she's studying. And she's running out of ideas, and she has absolutely no idea what she's going to do until she finds out about the Titanic and that her great-grandmother, Maggie, was a passenger on the Titanic. So it's kind of about putting her story together, telling her story, sending it off to publishers, sending it off to her professor. And they all tie in really, really well. And this was my second read of this book, but it was my first time reading it as an audiobook. And it really, really captures the essence of being on the Titanic perfectly. I really, really enjoyed this book. And if you are a Titanic enthusiast, you're going to really enjoy it too. So the next prompt is Golden Shower, where you need to read a book that has gold on the cover. And for this one, I read The Black Flamingo by Dean Atta. I really, really loved this book. So it was one of the first books that I have read in verse. I haven't read a whole lot of books in verse, and that really just made it flow so perfectly. And it really added to the pace. I felt like it was really well paced. You got to follow Michael as a child. You meet him when he's like 7 or so, and then you follow up with him until he goes to university and he discovers drag and he finds more gay people to have in his kind of circle, and A lot of it is kind of like about Michael coming to age, coming to terms with his sexuality, dealing with his sexuality. I really, really enjoyed this book, and I also gave that one 4 stars. The Black Flamingo also fit 2 Girls, 1 Cup for me, and that one was to read a book that was recommended by more than 2 people. This one has been recommended on Goodreads to me, on Instagram, on Twitter, everywhere. I have seen this so many places. There's absolutely no doubt that more than 2 people have mentioned this one. So I've talked about the flip side before, and it also fit into the prompts for Popper, which was to read a relaxing book or a book that opened you up. Okay, so it didn't really open me up, but it did relax me in the sense that when I was reading it, I was just chilling out. I didn't do a whole lot with myself. I just sat on my bed, I had a cup of tea, and I had some books, and I had some biscuits, and I had just a really cozy and chill night in reading my book. So for shooting blanks, you had to randomly pick a book off your TBR. So for that, I originally picked All the Bad Apples by Moira Fowley Doyle and then didn't read it. So I can pick literally any of the books that I have read in September and it's going to fit in. So I'm going to say Dancing the Charleston by Jacqueline Wilson, which I read it also as an audiobook. I finished it up maybe 2 or 3 days ago, and it follows a little girl called Mona whose parents have both died, and she actually lives with her aunt at the moment. And her aunt is a spinster. She's a seamstress, and she lives in the grounds of like a really, really big house. Think Downton Abbey type stuff. And the lady of the manor passes away, and her youngest son is left the house in the will, and he keeps Mona and her aunt on the grounds. Just, I'm not quite sure why. I think he just wants to have them around, to have some company around the place. And it kind of goes through the changes in when Benjamin takes over the manor and what's it going to be like under him. For Pussy, you had to read a book that had an animal on the cover. And for this one, I read Get a Life, Chloe Brown by Talia Hibbert. I feel like this book kind of divides everybody. Most people really, really love it. Some people really, really hate it. I was very much in the middle. I really enjoyed quite a lot of it. I really enjoyed the chemistry between Red and between Chloe, and I also really enjoyed the relationship and the banter between Chloe and her 2 sisters. But sometimes I didn't really enjoy Chloe herself. I felt like sometimes she was just a bit too much. I also don't want to say that I loved the rep because I'm not represented by anything that was talked about in this book. I don't have a chronic illness, I'm not a black woman, and I am not plus size. But I feel like it was done pretty well. And I feel like it was written well and it came across very well. But if you have any of those, if you associate with any of those and you feel like the rep was or wasn't done well, please let me know what about it in the comments. Yet another crossover book. For Lube, you had to read a book that was really easy to glide through. And because I have already read it before and because I was listening to it as an audiobook, I felt like I finished The Girl Who Came Home in like a couple of days or so. For Jaffa Caking, you had to read a book while you were eating a favourite dessert or while you were eating your favourite food. And one day while I was reading Chloe Brown, I ate like 2 portions of lasagna. And that is one of my favourite foods, so that definitely ticked off that point. And so finally, for Clit, you had to read a book that was underhyped or underappreciated. And that is definitely The Girl Who Came Home. Because I have seen not one single person talking about this one on BookTube or on Twitter or on Instagram or anywhere. I have not seen one single person who has actually mentioned it. So if you have read it, please let me know in the comments because I need somebody to talk about it with. So that is how I did in the Not Safe for Workathon. If you were taking part, please let me know how you did. Let me know in the comments below because I would love to see your progress. Don't forget to like and subscribe because I have new videos up every week. Now get on out of here.